We don't need this many snipers. Why are there so many spies? Those two questions, or some variation of those two questions, are some of the most common ones that I hear asked within servers all over TF2. There seems to be a plague, an infestation, almost, of spies and/or snipers saturating a team into a compilation of squishy, low-output support classes. This common problem is too often associated with free-to-plays, which is essentially TF2's equivalent of what one would call a noob. Ever since TF2 became F2P, there's been a bit of stereotyping floating around regarding people that end up installing the game and have yet to spend any money, or real time for that matter, on the game we've grown to love. And there is a bit of truth to these stereotypes. In fact, renowned YouTube user Star made a video a while back, which is one of his most popular videos of all time, that highlights the behavior of snipers typically standing in the same spot scoped and just generally not being all that useful. And it's become, once again, one of his most popular videos of all time. So it's clear that at least there's some sort of awareness that this behavior is common. But at the same time, Star also made basically Sweet Genius, and that's a really good video. You should probably go watch it. Anyways, although the general awareness of this trend is there within our game, I don't hear a lot of people talk about the reason why people do this. So that's kind of what I plan to do today. I plan to analyze and explain what exactly makes Sniper and Spy go-to free-to-play classes. And, what we as players can do to try and influence, or at least understand where newcomers are coming from when they do choose Sniper or Spy. And before you go into the comments and tell me that when you were free-to-play, you weren't really playing Spy or Sniper that often, I understand that. Not every free-to-play player, or not even a majority of free-to-play players, are probably the type of person who would choose these two classes. But there definitely is a trend, and I'm kind of referring to the trend itself, why that trend is even a thing. So, I understand you might not have been that way, but if that's the case, I'm simply not referring to your free-to-play experience. So, moving on. Every well-seasoned, marinated, broiled to perfection player of Team Fortress 2 had to start somewhere, and I'm sure we didn't all start knowing how to perfectly rocket jump or place buildings or when to pop Uber at what time, so in order to see why Spy and Sniper is so often flocked to, we need to examine what makes them similar to one another, as well as what they're best at, and how easy it is to do what they're best at.
Firstly, one thing that's worth pointing out is that the two gents have the same amount of health and the same speed as one another, which makes them more appealing in terms of getting around the map than, say, like a demo man or a heavy, who only have 93% speed if you're a demo man and 77% speed if you're a heavy. This might seem like not that big of a deal, but I'm going to come back to this in a bit. But there is one other very important aspect that makes Spy and Sniper so appealing to the masses, and it's something that is exclusive to them. They have the instant gratification of a one-hit kill. Both of them have something in their arsenal that kills an enemy player in one hit. As it stands today, the Sniper's headshot and the Spy's backstab are the only two things in the entire game that can guarantee a one-hit kill. And to somebody who's new to the game who wants to prove that they could be a very valuable asset onto a team, what isn't appealing about having a well-placed, well-timed click result in somebody's health going from 100 to 0, or even 1,000 to 0, be it the case? And admittedly, even to a non-free-to-play player, headshots and backstabs are incredibly satisfying. I mean, look at this! Alright, it definitely feels a lot better to do it to other people than to have it done to you, but the point still stands. The headshot and the backstab are some of the most satisfying things in the game, just because of how quickly you can bring somebody to 0 health. Right, now, I know some of you might be watching this at this point and saying, okay, so what? The headshot and the backstab are incredibly satisfying. What does this actually have to do with free-to-plays? Well, looking back at Star's video, it's clear that the only weapon that the snipers in it tend to use throughout is the trusty sniper rifle, the only weapon that can one-hit kill. And similarly for Spy stereotypes, face stabbing and butter knifing, the act of religiously using your knife to try and get a kill desperately without having to resort to your revolver, those are both popular terms that are used to describe someone who may be ill-experienced in Spy, potentially because they're new to the game. So, this dedication to one-hit kill weapons is also why, on top of free-to-plays being associated with Spies and Snipers, they're thought to seldom take out their SMGs or revolvers, just like in Star's video, and just like in any sort of depiction of the Spy that you've ever seen that show them butter knifing. An important thing to bring up when it comes to free-to-plays being linked with spies and snipers is the fact that although they do have this astronomical ability on their side that can definitely turn games in the span of a few seconds in the right hands, it's important to note that they are still support classes. They are stressed as classes that operate best out of sight. It's good for a sniper to be far away from the enemy and from other teammates, and the same for a spy to be lingering and cloaking around in the enemy lines. Their entire thing is to not get caught, and this is actually an even more appealing thing for a free-to-play, especially when it comes to the fact that they're not going to be having a lot of attention from their teammates. If you're a new player and you don't really know what you're doing, you don't want to be seen. You don't want to be the heavy that has a lot of responsibility on their shoulders and that has to carry the team and then be the one to mess it up. So with a support class like Spy and Sniper, if you guys die, it isn't really that detrimental to the team. No one's really hurting about the fact that the Spy or the Sniper died, but at the same time, you still have that power. So you still have a lot of room for error, but while you're doing all that and potentially dying, you still have a lot of power when you can get a headshot and a backstab theoretically at any time. And to add even more to the idea that it's appealing for free-to-play to not be in the spotlight, spies and snipers just happen to be some of the least viable classes to ever Uber, which means that you're never going to get pocketed and you're never going to have somebody breathing down your neck expecting you to do very well, which is a pretty good thing if you're new to a game. So before I'm able to make my last point, it's important that I talk about the elephant in the room of common free-to-play stereotypes, the WM1 Pyro. I'd say that this free-to-play stereotype is only a little less popular than the Spy Sniper stereotype, but it still does have a lot of similarities with them. So firstly, with the Pyro's flamethrower, you can usually get some pretty easy kills with them, similarly to the easy kills that you can pick up with a sniper rifle or with a knife. And similarly to the idea of butter knifing and people only using their sniper rifles, WM1 follows the same formula where a player just religiously uses their flamethrower and walks forward without really switching to any of their secondary weapons. And when it comes to stats, Pyro has even very alike stats, and kind of better stats in general when it comes to the fact that Pyro has 100% speed as well as 175 health, which is the same speed as Spy and Sniper, but it's also 50 more health than Spy and Sniper has. And yet another similarity when it comes to the Uber situation, where spies and snipers aren't often Ubered because of their low output, while Pyros aren't often Ubered because of their small range. So there are a lot of similarities, which is really interesting when you consider free-to-plays, a lot of the classes that come to mind are Spy, Sniper, and Pyro. So there's a reason for this, I feel, and it's because as expendable as these three classes are, it's because they're expendable. It's because they don't have a lot to lose. If you're an engineer, it's really devastating to have all your buildings sapped and destroyed after you die, and although some free-to-plays are associated with engineers, they're usually turtling their sentries, staying right behind it, trying to make sure that that terrible moment when your sentries are going to be taken down never happens. And so that makes them ineffective because they're not out and about actually helping their team, shooting around, doing all the other nice stuff that engineers allow them to do. Similarly, with Heavy, Demoman, and Soldier, they're just altogether slower classes. And you lose a lot of time getting to the battlefield, especially if you're a free-to-play who doesn't know how to rocket jump or sticky jump. And lastly, I would associate, like, the very last class that I would ever expect a free-to-play to play would be Medic, because you are supposed to take care of everyone. And if you don't know how to take care of yourself out in the battlefield, how can you be expected to take care of an entire team? And again, when it comes to the theme of having something to lose, the Uber is one of the most important things in the entire game. You do not want to be responsible for losing that, so that's pretty much why I would say that Medic is probably one of the least popular free-to-play choices, while Spy, Sniper, and Pyro and Engineer are generally the top 4, with Scout, Heavy, Demoman, and Soldier being somewhere in the middle where it could really vary depending on how new to the game that they are. Alright, enough about the other classes. We still need to address what makes Spy and Sniper popular picks, so just to recap. Point number 1, their arsenal includes one-hit kill weapons that are easy to use. Point number 2, their roles require very little attention, so mess-ups and deaths aren't that big of a deal. And point number 3, there's not a lot lost when you die as these two classes. So, All these aspects combined points to the fact that Spy and Sniper simply have the shallowest learning curves in the game when compared to the other classes, since positioning and team play is less emphasized with them. Even Pyros have air blasts, soldiers have their buff banner, etc. So, the final question. How can we encourage deviation from these habits? Well, essentially all we can really do is just treat the game just like it is, a game. People are going to experiment with classes and eventually learn how to play simply from playing more often. Ultimately, as long as we're good sports and let new players comfortably experiment with new classes, whether we're on the winning side or the losing side, they should find something that they're having fun with. And as long as we make it clear to one another that it's fine to make mistakes with any class, then maybe free-to-plays won't be so hesitant to take on more roles than support. We can learn from each other and teach as we go on, and in the end, we might just create an environment that veterans and newcomers can both enjoy, with a little bit of patience and a lot of trial and error. But anyways, that was my commentary on why Spies and Snipers are the most often chosen free-to-play classes. I hope you guys enjoyed. I've been Reuploading. If you think that I've missed any points at all, feel free to leave a comment in the video. And if you feel as though some of the points don't really make any sense or need some clarification, of course, ask away. And until next time, again, Reuploading. Hope you enjoyed. Adios, amigos.